Welcome to Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak. I'm here with a special guest, author, teacher, blogger, radio show host, Andrew. Please say your last name because otherwise I won't pick you.
Schatkin, S-C-H-A-T-K-I-N. Andrew Schatkin. I'm very happy to be present on this show because I have certain ideas that I value and I would like to articulate.
Please share your ideas.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've reached a decision in my life that I believe that Christianity is the true faith. That is the decision I have reached. I don't say you have to agree with me. Matter of fact, I love my Islamic brothers and sisters. I want to dialogue with everybody. I want to meet everybody as a person and as an intellectual. And that is my goal.
Right.
My goal is not to reject anybody's ideas or concepts. I don't have time for that. I have more time for listening to people, getting to know them, and hearing them out.
That is what everything should be. I have my friends that are Muslim. I have my friends that are Catholic. I have my friends that are Christian and spiritualities.
Well, that's it. I find my Islamic brothers and sisters wonderful. I love them. I'm very anxious to dialogue. I call it dialoguing with them. I want to talk to them, hear what they have to say, hear about their faith, hear about their ideas. I'm interested.
Those are some of the most, when you get outside your own religion and have a dialogue, an open dialogue.
That's right.
And take away the hate, take away your own prejudice.
And prejudice is the most stupid, useless use of your mind that you can imagine.
It is.
I think it is.
It is 100% a waste of time. You cannot tell someone how to think. You cannot tell someone what they should believe. It's up to the individual. And when you take and have an open conversation across everything, then we actually increase our own intellect.
Well, that's it. You know, as I say, I mean, I have encountered a number of Islamic people in my life. I find them I think they're fantastic. They're open, they're intelligent, they're very, first of all, let me tell you something. What was your first name?
Melissa.
Melissa. I find other races, I find the white race is falling behind. At least in the United States. I think the Caucasian group is lagging behind other races. That's my opinion. I think the Asians, Koreans, Chinese, and Muslims are advancing in their thinking. They're advancing our country. They are contributing. And I'm not happy with the Caucasians. They're not, first of all, I think the educational system is terrible.
It is, and it's getting worse.
And so the Caucasians really, I mean, are being produced by the schools that don't know anything. They really don't.
They don't.
They don't. And I find the Asians and Muslims very, very, very advanced in their thinking. They're very smart. Perhaps smarter than the white race. I've come to this conclusion, I'm not so sure. And the white race at this point in time is really doing much of anything.
Well, I think it's more what is the government doing to our schools. It's dumbing down our schools and actually is holding us back as a society. If you look at the Europeans, the Asians, the Middle Eastern with their schooling, you see a drastic change in how they perceive education.
Yes, the government is pulling down our young people immeasurably. I'm a fan of, you might say, old books. I guess you could call them old, whether Leo Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or T.S. Eliot, whoever they are, unless our society brings young people to the level of thinking that they're capable of, they're going to bring them down. They're being brought down.
They are. When you take away your history. So now we introduce a systematic propaganda instead of history. If you don't,
I didn't want to say that, but it's true.
Mhm. And then you are destined to repeat history because you don't know history. You're taught.
No, you don't.
propaganda.
I ran into two college students. One was in a restaurant in Queens where I live. This student, we got to do a brief discussion. She had graduated from college. She never heard of Tolstoy. Okay, I don't say you got to read Tolstoy, but she has never heard of him. She has gone through a college curriculum. For me, Tolstoy is one of the top intellectual lights of the world. He was
Mhm.
very bright. He wanted to help the peasants and improve their schools. And also another one in Manhattan. Now I love George Orwell because I think he wrote a great book called 1984. And in that book, he defined the situation today of what you just said, of political propaganda running people's minds. He did. He saw it. And it's true. And that book is very valuable because he addressed the issue of political propaganda being mistaken for thinking.
Yes. And having read the book, I have a lot of my mindset based on that book because I read it when I was 10, 11 years old.
It's a great book.
Yes.
It is a great book.
And if you read it it's called 1984, and you read it and you look at the society today, it runs parallel to the book.
It does. It really does. And as you said, Melissa, our intellectual functioning in the United States has been brought down our society to the ground.
It has.
It really has.
We have taken math, put in some new age thing that dummy downs math. How can you dummy down math? You need math to accelerate any society.
Well, I also think that you mentioned George Orwell's 1984. I mentioned Tolstoy. Unless young people, their minds are stretched.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book. I read a book by a guy named Mortimer Adler, How to Read a Book. And he gave a list of books and he said, these are the books that will stretch your mind. They are being given material, young people, that you call it dumbing down. I guess that's it. But their minds are being atrophied.
It is. When you take away so much of the education and you twist it to dummy down the education system, you create I would hate to use the word slave, but it's basically what you're doing. You're telling people how to think, what to think, when to think it, and not think for themselves.
And maybe they're being told what party to vote for or what political position to take. It could be.
Yeah, it could be.
Although I said this, Melissa, you probably agree with me. Our political parties are essentially the same.
Mhm.
I don't believe they're different. I think our society is an oligarchy and it's being run by corporate money.
Correct.
You know, that is what's going on. I think the Democrats and Republicans try to get elected. You know, they want to get into office. So they use anything to do it.
Exactly. We don't have a true election anymore. We have what corporate power
That's right.
is going to put in X amount of money for their political talking head to be in
Right.
office.
It's true. So the people who think that our parties actually represent ideas or thoughts, they don't understand what's going on. We are being manipulated and used by our political parties. The Republicans, for example, let me give you an example. I'm pro-life, but that's beside the point.
Mhm.
Because the Republican Party adopts the position of being against abortion. And they do that because there are a fair number of people they can find in the country that will vote for that. I think so.
Mhm.
What you think? There's a fair number I don't know how many. I don't know whether it's a majority, but there's a fair number of people that will identify with that. And the Democratic Party has lighted on the idea that they represent poverty and poor people. I don't know if they do. I don't think that many poor people in the United States. I mean, there are some.
We have created poor people for the system to identify with.
That's right.
We
But
have
I think the
created
Democratic
them.
Party uses that concept, as I said, just like the Republicans use abortion to get into office.
Yes,
That's what they do.
you dumbing down your education, then we create poor people. That's what we're calling them. Then we have poverty-stricken neighborhoods. So then we have the education system for those poverty-stricken education areas.
That's true.
That's worse than in a affluent neighborhood.
Let me ask you this, Melissa. Do you believe that people or young people continue to read books?
No.
No.
My daughter is 18 years old. She reads Reddit. That is her education.
Well, I want to ask you a question. This is something that fascinated me. When I look at the books of the past, you could talk about Moby Dick or whatever. That's one example, or Tolstoy, War and Peace. Why is it people at that time were able to relate to those somewhat difficult books, but today they can't reach anybody?
I think
Why is it people in the past read those books?
Well, one, those were the books that were coming out. But two, we don't teach them today because they're archaic. They're not readily on the internet in memes or 2-minute reads. And our young people are told, oh, we don't have to do with this because now we're being told there's things in those books that are racist, anti-Semitic, or no longer reflect today's opinions.
Well, let me ask you this. I named 2 books. Do you believe the books of that time were addressed to a more elite reading public?
No.
No?
No.
I'm trying to understand why a young person today would find those books too difficult.
They dumb it down. I mean, if you take the education that my daughter reads in school, and my nephew was being given this today. You either read the book or watch the movie. Well,
we live in a society. Let me see if you agree with this. I don't mean to interrupt you, Melissa. I see you're a very fascinating person to talk to. We live in a culture and education of pictures, images, pictures. And that is, as this man Mortimer Adler said in How to Read a Book, he said that those images are drugs. You don't learn from them. Correct. You are a passive receptacle. You don't learn from them. He said they're drugs. They are drugs.
They are. There was a song that just came out. It's called Propaganda by Tom McDonald, and I forget who is the main singer, that deals with this. You're being fed pictures, you're being fed 2-minute segments, and you're being told that's literature.
Well, again, I want to ask you this question, and because I know you may have the answer that I don't have. Why did the reading public of that age, why was it able to read those more complex books?
They're taught. If you go back to when those books were wrote, the 50s through the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were taught by your parents, here's a book, read it. You're taught by your teachers, here's a book, read it. You go to school now, here's a movie, watch it.
Well, the result is that, as you said, Melissa, our young people, you use the word poverty stricken. Our young people have been made poverty-stricken in thinking. I think so.
They have.
And when I say this, my opinion, you tell me if you agree with it. I want to know.
Mhm.
I think a society without books is a society, the kind of books I'm talking about, and reading those books, I think we are plunging into ignorance and darkness.
We've already hit there. If you look at today's society, you have so many uneducated people because they don't read. They get the 90% of their education through the media. That's through imaging, through songs, through internet apps.
Yeah.
And it's not literature. It's not reading. You're atrophying your mind.
But the result with what is going to happen to our culture? What will happen? Are we going to be in sort of in darkness?
Eventually, it's going to get to we have to read. We have to expand our minds.
Well, by a society, our society, and a society where people don't read, we are creating a race. As you said, you use those words, and the words were right. A race of poverty-stricken, intellectually poverty-stricken individuals.
It is.
Yeah. And also, I say this, without reading, you can't think. I still say this.
Mhm.
You are not able to use your mind through cell phones or images. I don't think it's so. I think your mind is atrophied by these receptacles. And I think it is only by reading that our minds develop. That's my personal opinion.
That's very true. You have to read. We have to be a society of where books are valued. This is why I'm an author. I think books are of value. It doesn't matter if we're reading fiction or nonfiction.
Right.
You have to read to get a new idea. Sometimes a fiction novel will give you more insight on what's going on around you because it's told in a way to make you think.
Do you think the young people are aware of what is being done to them?
I think they haven't reached the awakening yet.
You think they'll wake up?
Eventually. Unfortunately, I think for grand majority of them, society will not be very kind to them before they wake up.
Will they reach the point in understanding that they are being cheated, destroyed, and ruined? Are they going to understand that?
I think they're okay. We have the woken kids that are out there today, but they're not getting the point. They're seeing that society is seeing these things, but at the same time, they're blaming something other than the education for the problems they're facing.
Do you believe that the policies behind our education is to create a race of people that are easily fooled and manipulated?
I think that's what we're dealing with right now.
Right. So it is favorable to a demagogue, a Hitler, a Stalin, whoever you may imagine, Pol Pot. These policies are going to favor those kind of people getting power.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
We have seen this before. If you go back to Germany in 1942,
right,
we have seen this. You get rid of the education. You blame a race for something out for the troubles of another race. We have the playbook, but we're allowing it to happen today because of why we took history out of schools.
Well, let me ask you this again. Do you believe there is a deliberate policy to to use these concepts and ideas that are being pushed on our young people in an attempt to get power.
Yes.
I
How do
think
you get power? Is through fear. When you make people afraid, then you can put people in power to enhance the fear.
One thing I've noticed, you tell me if you agree with me,
Mhm.
there is no discussion of ideas, concepts, or opinions. Nobody, people, either they're afraid or don't have any,
Mhm.
or don't know anything, but nobody talks.
No, I think we have gotten to the point in society, we don't talk anymore. We
No,
either
yeah.
we have our ideas, and if we don't like someone else's ideas, we attack them. We don't talk about it. We don't share it.
Why not discuss those ideas with that person and hear them out?
I would love to have those open discussions. I love having well, we call it controversy, but it's not really controversy. We need to have open discussions on
Yes.
everything.
But there is no open discussion.
No, there's not. We took away open discussion and call it a hate speech.
Is that what happened? They
That
call it
is
hate
what
speech?
happened.
Well, I think you're right. Of course, I agree with you. I tend to be conservative, as you are. I'm conservative, you know, but I'm willing to listen to the left.
Mhm.
I have no objection to the left wing saying a few things or discussing things with me. I have no objection to it.
I don't know.
Matter of fact, I agree with the left. In certain respects, I agree on certain ideas with the left.
Mhm.
I think that there are a group of people in this country who need help.
There are.
There are. And I think they should get help. I'm not so saying that they should be on welfare, but I think that for a fair number of people, life is somewhat difficult.
But at the same time, and this is based on things I see. I see people using the system, then blaming the system because they
That's
can't
right.
get ahead. I see jobs, businesses, advertising help wanted, and they can't fill the positions.
That's right. It's true. There are many, many jobs available. There are.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this. There's a man where I live, and I read a lot, and you do too. Every time he sees me, he says, "What are you reading?" So I have said to him, and I say to anyone, there is a local public library a few blocks away. There is no excuse for not reading books when a library is fully available, 100% available to the entire population. Why don't people go to the library?
I have no idea. It boggles my mind so much why we don't utilize the library.
Well, do you think they don't know what a library is?
It would be hard not to know where the library is in your city. I can go to any city and normally find a library by street signs.
When I was a kid, I was in the library. All the kids were doing their homework in the library. Every one of us were in the library. And I often, of course, my mother was a librarian, so I valued books. But I still don't understand. I don't quite understand why our young people don't borrow books from the library. I don't understand it.
I don't either, really. My daughter, she loves the library. That is one of her most favorite places in the entire world.
Right. Well, she's had some guidance from a well-educated person, such as yourself. She had guidance.
Mhm.
Now, maybe many young people don't get any guidance.
That is sadly, but very much truthful. We went to a parent working 2 to 3 jobs to pay rent. We have gone to single parent households. We have gone to nuclear families of being mom and grandparents or mom and siblings. We no longer see this independence because our inflation rate is astronomical. Why is our inflation rate astronomical? Because we allowed it to get there.
Let me ask you this, Melissa. I want to get your views on this. Let's get down to the facts and the truth.
Mhm.
Not to be able to read, I don't think there's an excuse.
There's not an excuse.
No, there is no excuse. When you have a library 3 blocks away.
Mhm.
But the persons involved here who don't know how to read, and we are increasing, our society is being increasingly made illiterate. I think it is. We are in a literacy crisis.
We are.
And if this continues, as I said, we will be pushed down even further. I can't say to what point. I can't say where we would be pushed far down, but it would be to the bottom.